Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way morning briefing. We've been speaking about it for a couple of weeks. We've been wanting a happy Monday, and I can guarantee you all this is a very, very happy Monday. My name is Ryan McGinlay, and today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Anthony Haggerty, Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle. Tony, how you doing this morning? You still on cloud nine after yesterday?
Or Yoda, as he's affectionately known. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yes, we did tell them all week, Ryan, that Celtic would win. We explained why they would win, the Rodgers masterclass and all that, tactical masterclass. So, yeah, feeling good. I think every Celtic supporter's feeling good. They got a performance to be proud of, didn't they? And, yeah, feeling vindicated that the reasons we outlined all last week sort of came to fruition. And I'm pleased more than anything for the manager and that group of players. But yeah, we shall get into it for the next however long we speak for.
That's it. Absolutely. Thank you to everybody that's dropping in to the live channel, the live stream just now for the. I knew it would be a busy morning. We know Celtic fans like to come in, especially when they're winning. Actually, win, lose or draw, the Celtic fans are always there to talk about the team, whether that's in a positive light and a negative light, whether they want some improvements, they want to talk about the good things that happened in the game. I think there was a bit of both in yesterday's game. Definitely places in which Celtic can improve on, but on the whole, it's all about getting the 3 points in such a difficult away ground with no spectators at Ibrox, no away spectators at Ibrox, obviously. To come away with the 3 points is a job well done. And I was saying to you beforehand on just as we were speaking in the lobby area of this live stream, it feels like the beginning now of Brendan Rodgers' era in full. I think not that he's been sleepwalking through it, but there's been a wee bit of, I don't know, like a pessimistic attitude with things. Yesterday was exactly what was required. It was definitely what the doctor ordered. And Brendan Rodgers in clips after the game, you can tell he's enjoyed every bit of it. The fist pump to the crowd, the fist pump in the car with the sunglasses on. He's back, isn't he? This is him. He's properly back now.
I'll take you back to Friday, and lots of people saying, "Oh, Brendan Rodgers, he's not, he's lost his va-va-voom or his pizzazz or the X factor." Brendan Rodgers said on Friday, "I know how to win, and I know what it takes to win, and I'll show the players how to win." That for me summed it all up, right? And I've been banging on all week about a game plan, that he was working on a game plan from the moment that the St Johnstone game had finished, and he certainly was. The biggest surprise was that none of the new guys played, but I tell you what it was. All week he'd been very subtle and just sort of mentioned half the squad was missing, but he was drilling it into those players what they were going to do at Ibrox, and he was working on that kind of master plan. And see the fact that none of those new players played, and that he worked on a shape and a system and a style with the players that he had at his disposal. That's why I told you he was an elite level manager all week. That's good old fashioned bona fide football management at the highest order and calibre, because he trusted those guys to go out there and get him a result. Not the new guys, didn't want to throw them into that. That's probably the only thing that we'd maybe miscalculated about Brendan Rodgers and Sunday's team. But the team that he had at his disposal, he knew they were capable of going there and getting a result. And as he said, he knows how to win, he knows what it takes to win, and he showed the players how to win. But he said himself they had to play like men, and they did. Every one of them rose to that challenge on Sunday, and because they were guided by a guy who's been over the course and distance, knew what he was doing, and I had every faith in him to do that. Not try to be wise after the event. We'd spoken about it all week, and I had said, if it comes to tactics and a tactician, I thought that Brendan Rodgers had beaten a Michael Beale. I thoroughly, I stood by that all week. People were saying that they thought the Celtic were going to get hammered, clobbered, taken for 3 and 4s. Couldn't understand that. Could understand the frustration that maybe transfer windows and not got the players in that they thought, but trusted the manager to know what he was doing with the squad of players, and that Celtic would be a different animal when they went to Ibrox, and they most certainly were. And for all of the, people were saying it was a scrappy game, others were saying it was a right good entertaining game. Celtic played the better football in both halves of that game, No, Rangers huffed and puffed the second half and came at them, and they stood a lot of pressure. But I'm talking about the isolated moments of football. Celtic had the larger portion of greater passages of play, and could have and probably should have scored more. Can they improve? Of course they can improve, but they went there with a weakened team with no fans, and it was a real kind of tactical masterclass and carried out by a group of players who were determined to show that the last two games were a blip and that they were a much better team than people gave them credit for. And I think, as you say, I think that's the Rodgers era kicking in now. We did say that it would kickstart the season, and you cannot wait now to see them up to full speed. We spoke yesterday. We cannot wait to see these new players, Ryan, who come into the side. Bernardo, Palmer, Nat Phillips, still to see Marco Tilio as well. But there was lots of positives yesterday, even with the guys that came on. Yang did well, Odin Thiago home. We spoke about that in the after-match briefing that we did. But yeah, I think lots to be pleased about and lots to be enthused about. But yeah, like everything else, there's still room for improvement.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement. Just before we get on to talk about Brendan Rodgers' comments after the game, thank you to everyone that's joined us in the stream so far. We're currently at 410 odd people, so that's an incredible amount for a Monday morning. We really do appreciate it. We knew that the crowds would come in their droves. It's getting even bigger now that I say that. If you do like what we do and you want to support us just a wee bit more, then please visit the strap line below, the link in the strap line below, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Even though it's the international break coming up, we'll still have plenty to talk about regarding Celtic. We'll probably have a retrospective look over the past couple of games this season with some of the articles that we'll put out. We'll look at what's went well so far, what's needing to be improved on. I'm halfway through doing my stats bomb report for the game, which makes for good reading. You know, Celtic showed in the first half their footballing ability, but in the second half they showed their defensive mettle and they got the win that was required. And also, I believe we have launched our app today as well, the Celtic Way app. I got an email regarding that this morning, so it's on the App Store. It should be on every app store that's available, to be honest. If you type in the Celtic Way on your phone's app store, then you'll be able to get the Celtic Way app and get all our stories a little bit easier. It means you don't have to use the URL. You can just click onto the application and then you've got the stories there at your fingertips. If you are interested, please subscribe, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And if you're feeling extremely generous, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We're really trying to grow this channel and make it the best possible channel that it can be, and we can only do that through people's subscriptions. So if you do press the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on, you'll be able to get live. You'll be getting updates as to when Tony and I go live or when a pre-recorded video is hitting a premiere. So if you are interested, please subscribe. Just going on to Brendan Rodgers' comments now. We could talk about Brendan Rodgers all day, but it's better if we talk about what Brendan Rodgers said after the game. I know you were at the post-match press conference. Just before we got onto the comments, Tony, did he cut a confident and relaxed figure at the end of the game? Was he really enjoying the result that just happened before him?
I think there was a kind of air of "I told you so" about it type thing, you know, if you were willing to listen, you know, or you know, some people care to doubt him type thing, you know. He was in kind of jocular mood as well, you know, because he said at one point, you know, he was on death watch, certain sections of the media, you know, but when he laughed himself at that, and everybody laughed in the room, you know. So I think he was he just exuded calmness and coolness personified. And that's what you want in any manager, especially getting into a cauldron like that. And yeah, I think he'd every right to enjoy that moment and just sort of say, you know, I've been around, done a lot of things, and I know how to win. So, and there's another one chalked off the list. I think what's that? Is it 14 derbies? He's won 11, drawn 2, and lost 1. Is that right? That's a phenomenal record.
That is unprecedented numbers.
I think that's the stats, yeah. And to go there and put in that performance and shape his team up the way he did with the burgeoning injury list that he had, we banged on about that. But I think he was entitled to be delighted at what his teams, and I think he was more pleased that they'd carried out his instructions to the letter of the law, and they'd come away with what he thought was a just result at the end of the day. And I think over the course of the piece, I think Celtic did deserve to edge it because they created the better chances, could have scored more. As I say, Rangers huffed and puffed and had their own chances and had had the ball in the net twice, but they were rightly ruled out, one for offside and one for a foul. So you can't argue with that. So he was. I think he was delighted because another difficult away game ticked off the list. Even this early in the season, are of vital importance. And
Celtic have only had difficult away games so far.
Yeah.
I would say that every away game presents its own challenges because Celtic aren't playing at home. Advantage is always going to be with Celtic when they play at home with the big pitch, the crowd on their side. But in most games there will be a sizable away crowd supporting the club. But to come away from Pittodrie and Ibrox, two grounds that I would earmark at the start of the season as being two of the most difficult places to go to, along with Tynecastle and potentially Easter Road as well. To get 6 points out of 6 from those two games is brilliant. I know the only blot in the copybook is Rugby Park, but that was in the League Cup, so it doesn't have that much of a bearing on proceedings. I know it's a trophy that Celtic should be competing for, but at least it doesn't affect the league form. 6 points out of 6. That's great for the start of the season, and definitely something that they can build upon and improve and kickstart their season, really, because we've been speaking about the performances recently. We said that performances haven't been up to scratch. Celtic needed a response yesterday, and they got one, and Brendan Rodgers got one from the players. Yes, they were under the cosh for sections of the game, but they stayed resolute and they kept the clean sheet and they got the goal that they needed to win the 3 points. So yeah, I can't really complain. These games, they're going to be 50-50. The possession stats ended up being 50-50 for the two sides due to Rangers' sort of dominance on the ball. Not dominance on the ball, but they had more of the ball than Celtic in the second half with their attacking. So it did end up even, but I think Celtic just edged it in terms of their defensive work and Kyogo's strike. Just going on to Brendan Rodgers' comments, if I could just read them out. So he was asked what his thoughts were on the win. Brendan Rodgers said this was in the post-match press conference that Tony attended. It was a fantastic result for us. When you look at the squad we had here and half our team missing, we need the players to come here and play like men, and they did that. In the first half, we were very good on the ball and got through the pitch very well. That is important when you come here. You have to manage the football and take away the intensity from the crowd, and we did that. Just those comments. Tony, he seems like a guy that's bursting with pride for his team and the way that they performed, and delighted with another 3 points coming away from Ibrox. It's becoming quite the occurrence for Brendan Rodgers to get 3 points at Ibrox.
He set them up to do that. That's what I'm saying. He'd been drilling them since last Saturday. Or Sunday when he maybe came in after the St Johnstone game and, we're on a bit of a downer. And he's the man that's lifted them up. He's the very man that said Rangers is the best game to play after the disappointment at St Johnstone. It's the easiest game. There's why. You get back to it. And I had a bit of a Carlsberg day yesterday. I was actually at Ibrox watching it. Celtic won. And you get a name check for the manager, so I was just like, take me now. So if it all ends tomorrow,
don't worry, I will read that comment.
Happy man, no, it's fine.
I will make my way.
I was, but he was proud of his team because that was a manager who'd set out a team to do a job, and and lots of, let's be honest, I kept banging on about the mood music all week last week, and it wasn't good, was it? And then when the team were announced and Lagerbielke and Scales were playing, I think every Celtic supporter would have had a collective, gasp or an intake of breath and thought and feared the worst. But I was just sitting there thinking, he wouldn't have played these guys if he didn't have confidence in them to go out there, do the job, and he had drilled it and drilled it and drilled it into them that this is what they were going to do, and Rangers even brought Roof back. They put Dessers nose, so there was a two-pronged attack, and Lagerbielke and Scales had to deal with that. And lots of people thought Scales was man of the match. That's up for question, but I thought Lagerbielke and Scales they defended resolutely. I think at times it was heart in the mouth stuff, but they got there in the end, and they've kept another clean sheet. So you can't fault them for that. And it doesn't matter how you do it, how you win. You can pick holes in it all you want, but that was a tough ask. But as I say, the manager had prepped them. You need to be men. You need to stand up. You need to be big. They're going to come at you. You need to withstand this. And I just think that the guidance of the manager really helped yesterday. I mean, Callum McGregor was a man possessed. Matt O'Riley was a man possessed. Maida. I mean, the energy levels in Maida. People say, he wasn't great in terms of creativity and all that. James Tavernier's Rangers' biggest goal threat. He had one free kick that he hit wide of the post. That's it. You never saw James Tavernier. So, all Rangers' supposed flair players like Cantwell and Raskin, I never saw them. They were outshone by three of Celtic's midfielders, because when Thiago Holm came on, he looked the part as well. So Cantwell and Raskin were anonymous. So you have to big up the manager for just allowing the players that freedom to go out in those set of circumstances and express themselves, because it would have been easy to retreat into yourself and think, fair enough. And a lot of Celtic supporters were like, I'll take a draw right now. I never want a draw at Ibrox. You've got to go and win. Go and win. Because you're capable of winning. I'd say to people all week, have they been watching Rangers? Because there was nothing there that I saw that frightened me per se. Because I still think, man for man, Celtic have a better squad of footballers. I believe that. I still believe it now. And you can see the backlash that's coming from the other side of the city, but I don't really particularly care about that. So I care about the way the manager conducted himself all week, the way he set a team up to go out and do a job and get a result. And I had, as I say, I had every confidence in him to do that. And I think he had every confidence in those players. As I said at the top of the programme, that's wonderful man management that everybody thought at least two of the new signings would play. Nah, he'd been working with it on the team that he was playing, been telling them all week, this is my team, this is what you're going to do. And if you perform that to the letter of the law, there's a chance that you'll win. Hence Friday, I know how to win. They'll know, and by the end of this game, they'll know how to win. I've been around. He was kind of saying to the Celtic supporters, trust me on this. I got this. And that's what I loved about Friday's presser, and I loved it even more yesterday, that he kind of sat back, and you get into the international break and you don't pat yourself in the back for a job well done because you've got the rest of the season to go. But I tell you what, you can breathe a wee bit more easily because you've got a 4-point lead. Yeah, it could be better. You could have a 6-point lead with a 2-point spilled against St Johnstone, but hey, it is what it is. So you're over that wee kind of hump in the road that you had to negotiate. And I don't think they could have gone to Ibrox under any more trying circumstances, Ryan. And we're not saying it was a vintage performance, a flawless performance, but they got the job done, and it was a collective effort. It was everything that was great about a Celtic team, as I said yesterday, was heart and soul. It was a collective team spirit there, and it stemmed from everybody, the manager and all the backroom staff. They were doing the kind of high-fiving on the way down the tunnel and all that. That's what it meant to them. It was a real collective effort.
Love that video.
Aye, a real collective effort there. You can see that. And that's why they were so happy and they were so chuffed. And they've every right to be, because that was a trying set of circumstances. And the great thing about it is you and I know this Celtic team can only get better. The manager's told you they'll get better. And I can't wait to see that. And the hardest task is to go to your rivals and win when there's no supporters. Rangers have found that really, really difficult. Rangers have to try and emulate what Celtic did at some point in the two matches that they will play with no fans at Celtic Park. And he was also very classy about that too. Brendan Rodgers, he spoke about that. And he said
those
it's
comments
not
were good.
Yeah, it's not the same game. But there was no blame attachment. He wasn't, he just sort of said, you're kind of diluting the spectacle here. Let's see if we can all get round the table and get it back to what it once was, because that's the nature of that kind of game. And these games are great when you win. But Celtic have had a habit of turning up at Ibrox and winning with 700 of our support or no support. It's not been the same the other way around, because it's a very, very difficult thing to do. So I think that was the marker laid down. Let the Brendan Rodgers era commence, as we say, and I think every Celtic supporter was proud of the manager and the players yesterday, to a man. And I think moving forward, you've got cause for optimism. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think if you were going into the first international break, if you were just told by somebody who'd been from the future, who'd came back to tell you that Celtic could be 4 points clear going into the first international break, you'd be absolutely delighted. Now,
Yeah.
you know, that St Johnstone game really was disappointing. Celtic should have won that game by a fair few goals. Matt O'Riley has his shooting boots on, then it's a different story. But, you know, to be 4 points clear of your rivals after 4 games, joint top, or you're top because of goal difference, because of the great start to the season that Motherwell are having as well. You know, fair play to Stuart Kettlewell and his group of players are having a great start. But you're just thinking, when it comes to the end of the season, these results, and I know you can't, leagues aren't won in August or September, as Brendan Rodgers said, but they certainly help, and they help with regard to pressure, because the pressure isn't on Celtic anymore, because they're 4 points clear. I think all the pressure goes to the other side of the city, who, you know, it's not been a great start for them. They're going to play catch up to a manager that knows exactly how to win things. You know, I think that was the exciting thing that Celtic supporters had when Brendan Rodgers came back to the club. He's a manager, he's a winner, he knows how to win things. He's won everything at Celtic, and he's came back to do the same again. And, you know, apart from the disappointment in the League Cup, which was such an anomaly, because you don't expect Brendan Rodgers teams to lose any games in cup games. But you know, in terms of the league, I think the Ibrox result more than makes up for the St Johnstone result the previous week. And in some ways, I think the Celtic players were playing with less pressure, because, you know, there were points in that game against St Johnstone where the crowd was a bit tetchy and getting on the back of the players when things weren't happening. They just played with a bit of freedom yesterday, because they knew that all the pressure was going on to the Rangers players. I think they heard after 20-25 minutes the Rangers support were getting on their home side's backs, and Celtic could play through that. For the large spells of that first half, Celtic were playing the better football out of the two, and at the second half as well. I know Rangers had a barrage of chances in the second half. You look at the stats, you know, the amount of chances I even forgot about. Danilo had about 5 or 6 chances on his own. But Celtic stayed resolute, and they got the 3 points, and they come out of an away stadium with none of their away support, and with 3 points, an absolutely incredible result. I just want to talk about those. Sorry, Tony. I just wanted to. On you go. No, on you go.
Big players stood up yesterday. Joe Hart, you know, McGregor, O'Riley, Kyogo. See, when you've got those 4 guys functioning, and the rest, you know, the rest playing their part, you'll get a wonderful chance of winning any football match. And that's what happened yesterday. You know, those men, experienced men who'd been through the course and distance, they turned up when it mattered. You know, Kyogo's goal's a thing of beauty, absolute thing of beauty. I see, I only saw it once in real time, and then I watched it again last night. And
how many times did you watch it again?
What a strike.
10, 20 times.
As my father said to me this morning, it's 15-0 in the game he's watched so far, because he's watched it that many tonight, that kind of thing.
No wonder.
But, you know, it's a wonderful strike. And again, like the Aberdeen goal, element of surprise with the goalkeeper, because he takes it so early. But Joe Hart was a big man yesterday. You know, nothing was going to beat him. And he did brilliant with Lammers, because I thought the temptation would be to pull him down. And you see his hand going, and I thought he actually got a wee clip in Lammers. But what he did do with Lammers is he put him right off. He stood big with Danilo. And then even the one that came out when Dessers was running through as well, and he kind of hit him on the side. But he judged that to perfection. And he just looks like a new goalkeeper under Brendan Rodgers. He shelled it long when he had to. Didn't care about trying to play football, because he just thought needs must. And so I was delighted with all 4 of them. That was Hart, McGregor, O'Riley and Kyogo. That's 6 and 6 derby matches for Kyogo now. 6 in the last 6. It's not bad, eh? 57 Celtic career goals. And what's that? The old "and counting" and a kind of James Bond voice, So 57 and counting. But yeah, just big. You need your big players to guide the others through it as well. And they were men. And then guys like Scales, excellent. And Ian, others like Maida just sacrificing himself for team. One of those selfless performances, brilliant. So again, not a total vintage performance per se, but lots of good football that Celtic played during that game. So I'm going to ask that. Colin Strickland. Yes, I did watch Maida. I thought he nullified James Tavernier, who never get a sniff, and he was excellent in terms of his defensive work and the duties that he performed. Could he be more creative and in an offensive sense? Of course he could, but I think he was put in the team to do the job that he did. And it was that sacrificing of himself for the good of the team, which nullified a major functional part of the Rangers team. So yeah, I watched it. If that's the question you're asking, then that's the answer, and that's why he stayed on the park. And he has boundless energy. Just wish he could be a wee bit more creative and a bit more cool-headed at the other end of the park.
He wouldn't be at Celtic if that was the case. He's got too many. He's got too many positive attributes. If he had all of them, I think he'd already be in the Premier League. I do stand by that. I think he's a Premier League level athlete. I don't think he's a Premier League level player.
Yeah.
But that suits Celtic because Celtic can deal with his deficiencies, especially in the domestic game. You know he's maybe going to touch the ball out. He's maybe going to be wasteful in front of goal. Although he did show signs that he was improving in that regard in pre-season when he was playing up front. Brendan Rodgers has said that he prefers him playing up front. He's playing out of position when it comes to Brendan Rodgers' side. So the fact that he's still doing that job, I know he's played there for the majority of his Celtic career on the left-hand side, but in Brendan Rodgers' eyes, he's playing a player not in his optimum position. But the reason for that is because there's one player that's better than him in that position, and it's Kyogo. Just going on to Kyogo, I'm just going to ask you a blunt question, and it's a question that goes out. I think Celtic supporters and anybody associated or watch Celtic are quite. They're quite not like dreamers or romantics when it comes to strikers. I think strikers are well heralded, and that's due to such big players in the past like Henrik Larsson, Edouard, Dembele, Hooper, etc., etc. In terms of the best since Larsson, I know we say that a lot. How far along does Kyogo need to go to be the undoubted one? Because I think he already is there, I'll be perfectly honest. I think his record against Rangers this season has just surpassed anything that any other striker has done since Larsson left the club. He's stepped up, he's in the prime of his career, and I think he's only going to get better.
It's all subjective, isn't it? But I think he's certainly up there, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's goals return so far 57. I mean, a lot of these things that he does reminds you of Larsson, doesn't it? And you can never compare the two ever, because anyone will tell you the guys that played with Henrik Larsson, there's only ever one Henrik Larsson, but they come along once in a blue moon. Well, there's another blue moon, isn't there? Because you have a player of supreme quality and just who knows what it takes. And those big game performances where he turns up against, your rivals and does the damage and does the business. But that wasn't all that Kyogo did yesterday. When he was involved, he was excellent. Because again, he played as a kind of out-and-out striker, didn't he? There was a couple of times he linked it, but he was more or less on the shoulder of the last Rangers defender and played on the shoulder that much that John Shooter played him onside because he got in behind Goldson for the strike. And it's just that, it's cold, it's calculated, it's clinical. The minute that ball drops, he's hitting it. And he's 20 yards from goal, but he's got every faith in his own ability that get this on target. There's a good chance this will go in. Gets it on target all right, doesn't he? I mean, it's just by Butland in a flash, and Butland's a good goalkeeper. There's no mistaking, but he's hammered that past him. And I think that's that predatory instinct of a player. You know, you mentioned a few there, Larsson, you know, Dembele, Hooper, Griffiths. You know, they all had that predatory instinct. But I think most Celtic supporters would, you know, spin a coin on maybe Dembele and Kyogo being the best since Larsson, but probably erring towards Kyogo because he has got a wonderful record in a short space of time.
Yeah,
And
I'd put it as free, to be honest. I'd put Edward in there as well. That's just me, but I think he was the top goal scorer for 3 consecutive seasons. I thought he was I think the last season was a bit of a blot, but even then he was still Celtic's top goal scorer by some distance.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people said that he didn't turn up in the final season, or he downed tools. Well, if that was him down in tools, I'd like to see him in full because he's still got the most goals in the Celtic team in a bad season. But yeah, I think between in terms of the top two, it's got to be between Dembele and Kyogo. But even then, Kyogo's been more consistent than Dembele. Dembele had the one outstanding season, then the second season maybe wasn't as good as the first season. Kyogo's going to be doing it now for 3 seasons in a row. You know, it's incredible numbers for a guy that we hadn't even heard of 3 years ago. This time 3 years ago, we didn't know who Kyogo was. Everybody in Scotland and probably most of England and Britain now know who Kyogo is because of the performances that he's had in the past 2 years.
Yeah. Speaking of incredible numbers, that's over 750 joining us live on the stream.
Absolutely
Thanks, guys.
incredible.
You really appreciate that. It's just when the Mondays are happy, it's magic. Everybody wants their say, and we genuinely appreciate it. It's good fun. Mondays are good when Celtic beat Rangers, aren't they, guys? Yeah.
There's always something to talk about, regardless of the result.
Regardless, of course. But in terms of striker, I think it's personal preference, isn't it? But the ones that you've named, they stick in your mind for a reason. They did the business consistently for Celtic, and they were lethal marksmen. And I say it's all subjective, but I think he's certainly in that. He's in that bracket, isn't he? He's in that conversation. Is he the best since Larsson? You know, that hyperbolic conversation that we have about players. You know, so he's up there. You know, so I think it's and if he stays for the duration of his contract, then he'll be up there in the estimation of the Celtic supporters. And if he joins the Hall of Fame, and scores 100 goals for Celtic, then he'll be lauded forever. You know, so I think most Celtic supporters now want to stick around and do that, don't they?
Yeah, I think in terms of the best since Larsson debate could go on all day, but I would say he does feel like this generation's sort of Larsson figure. He is the player that opposition fans fear now when they face Celtic. When you think of Celtic's attacking force, you think of Kyogo. That is the first player that you'll think of. He is the main man. He's the spearhead of all attacks that come Celtic's way. He is the positive in that team. I think for younger fans, you see the adulation that Kyogo has with the younger fans. You know, fans are wearing tops, they're wearing merchandise, they're wearing the Japanese stuff as well. The amount of Japanese flags at Celtic Park's incredible. And that's not just down to Kyogo, it's down to Hatate and other players, Daizen Maeda too, Iwata. Kyogo just has this aura about him. There's an aura that follows Kyogo. 4.5 million. I was talking yesterday to somebody, 4.5 million Celtic paid for Kyogo.
Do you know what sets them apart though, Ryan? They're team players. They get a lot of the adulation and the personal glory because of their deeds and their exploit and their goals. But what sets them apart is they're great team players. And there's a clip, I think Kyogo's talking to Japanese TV, and Matt O'Riley comes behind him and cuddles him and grabs him, and he turns around and he says thank you to him. And it's just a small clip, but it's that camaraderie, that spirit that, you know, Kyogo's more delighted that he's did it for the team. It's not about personal accolades. And Larsson was selfless like that. You know, Chris Sutton and John Hartson will tell you. You know, Alan Thompson would say, you know, I'd shell the ball up down the left channel. He says, aimlessly at times. He says, and Larsson would turn it into a great pass.
That was Larsson.
Hit it in his general direction, that kind of thing. And I think these players feel the same way about Kyogo. Matt O'Reilly's heading that in his general direction. He's on it in a flash. Nicky Devlin's headed that back at Pittodrie. He's on it in a flash. Build his team out of hole because Aberdeen were coming into the game at that point. Got the goal that Celtic richly deserved for the first half performance. And the team just adore him. The Celtic fans adore him. But everything he does for the team. And I think that marks you out as a special talent because it's not about you. You don't think you're bigger than the team. You're a cog in the green and white machine, so to speak, and you a vital one at that. And I think that means more to these players than anything. That the team collective, rather than individual awards will come because you score 34 goals, you're top goal scorer. That's great, but it's not what it's about for them. It's about being part of a successful team, a driven team, and a manager that tells you you're only as good as your teammates around you. You help them, they'll help you, that kind of thing. And I think that performance yesterday epitomised the kind of team spirit, collective, all that kind of stuff, the unit that Brendan Rodgers has at his disposal, and Kyogo's a vital part of that. And he and everything else, he loves it. He loves it and he thrives on it. And others around him, he's got that infectious personality that as you see, if you see that clip, Matt O'Reilly just.
I was going to talk about that. That's my favourite thing about yesterday. Matt O'Reilly is all of the Celtic supporters and how they feel about Kyogo. Matt
exactly. I think if any one of us had been behind Kyogo in that moment, that's exactly what we would have done. We'd have just grabbed him, yes, wee man, that kind of thing. And in that humble, he's like bowing his head, thank you, as he's talking to a camera, because he's probably thinking, you're filming me, sorry about that type thing, But great moment. It's moments like that you're on the right track in terms of the dressing room, camaraderie, the spirit, and the manager instilling that winning mentality. That's what I read into things like that, Ryan.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially the whole Matt O'Reilly. I think the two of them deserved as much credit as each other. I know Kyogo scored the winning goal, but Matt O'Reilly really, I don't think it's exaggerating to say I think he put on a performance for the ages yesterday. I thought everything that he did on that park was just. I thought he was noticeably good on the television. Now, sometimes he can fade in and out of games. There's maybe some things that he does, and then 10 minutes later, you don't see him, and then he'll pop back into the game. It felt as if he was on it yesterday. He was constantly on it for the 90 minutes. His fitness levels look to have improved under Brendan Rodgers as well, because he's not tiring out in games, I don't think. He's got the engine to match the style that Brendan Rodgers wants him to play. I think from now on, Matt O'Reilly has to play in that deeper role with Cal McGregor in the double pivot. Good players know how to work and play with each other, and having that double, that combination between the two of them is a constant outball for Cal McGregor to go to. Matt O'Reilly's more than happy to run with the ball at his feet, but he's happy to defend as well. He does the hard yards. I think he is the most underrated defender that Celtic have. Now, I know you talk about defenders playing as centre-backs, but in terms of an offensive defender, I think Matt O'Reilly's phenomenal. He's pressing, he's counter-pressing. He is so important to this team. For me, anyway, and I said this yesterday, he's got 5 out of 5 man of the match performances. Now, if he keeps this up, I think he'll be an absolute shoe-in for Player of the Year, because the level up in his game over the past 2-3 months, I think has been so noticeable. And I think that's down to Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers is getting the best out of what was already a good player, and he's going to turn into a great player because of that.
From the moment Brendan Rodgers walked in the door, Matt O'Reilly's had a smile on his face. He just looked at him and went, he's my kind of player. And then Matt O'Reilly went, you're my kind of boss. You're my kind of guy. And they're both in my kind of town and my kind of team. So excellent. And how many interceptions did Matt O'Reilly have yesterday? I mean, you'll be.
I don't know that. I'm still to get onto that part, but it'll probably be another 1,000 words.
Big number, eh? Or certainly big for Let
me just double check that. I'll go in and check.
He seemed to be everywhere, and I've spoke very highly of Matt O'Riley. I think you just know a baller when you see one,
Yeah,
and he's a
absolutely.
baller, right? It doesn't matter what you ask him to do. He was asked to fill in the Callum McGregor role when Callum McGregor was injured. He did it. Didn't complain. Just did it to the best of his ability. And now, as you say, he is now improving. Brendan Rodgers getting more out of him because that's what Brendan Rodgers does. He improves players. But Matt O'Riley was, you're never the finished article, but he was polishing up very well under Ange. And now this guy's got an extra layer of spit and polish on him, and you're thinking, what other superlatives can you say about Matt O'Riley? You will run out of them fast because, and I think yesterday's all about, all the hype going into these games about Cantwell and Raskin and how good they are and, what they would do to Celtic. You read all that, you see these guys don't exist in a vacuum. So I think guys like McGregor and O'Reilly went out yesterday and, not that they had a point to prove. I just think they wanted to show people, you can wax lyrical and bump your gums about these guys, but, I've got a guy here, captain of my team, who's a baller, and I'm no slouch myself. Matt O'Reilly just reminding people, I can
I've
play
got the
football as
stats.
well. Go on then.
4 tackles and 5 interceptions of the ball. That's a game high in
So
terms of Celtic anyway.
That's one of those every 10 minutes, right?
It felt like that.
When you
Yeah,
look
but
at
it was the highest amount for both teams.
because he's
he led the
everywhere,
game.
right? He was everywhere. Now, I know we're biased because we're watching Celtic, right? But you're conscious of your opponents. I didn't see Cantwell and Raskin in that game at all. But every time I looked up and there was something happening with Celtic, Matt O'Reilly was involved.
Or Callum
And see,
McGregor.
yeah, or McGregor. But see the header forward from Goldson's clearance. It's clever because he's putting that into an area and thinking, if the wee man's alive, he might get this. I'll just drop it in there, And a great setup, just kind of, there you go. And he was onside and Kyogo did the rest. But it's that kind of deftness of the header to think, if I just dink it in there over Golson and enough if the wee man's alive that he'll get onto it, might get a shot at goal. Probably surprised of himself. And Callum McGregor said in his interview that he told Kyogo he's the best striker he's ever seen. So can't get any more higher praise than that. But Matt O'Riley was clever with the header because he could have attempted to pull it down and try a pass or whatever. But just again, talking about ballers that see things in pictures. So he was about 2 or 3 steps ahead. I'll just win that header, put it in there. Hopefully, Kyogo's alive. Don't need to ask this question twice, do you? Kyogo's always alive, and bang, it's in the net.
That's
Seconds
totally
later,
rhetorical. He's always alive.
So, and I think Matt O'Riley knew that because he saw it in pictures. He saw the picture developing just as that ball was dropping down off, from Goldson's, the air from Goldson's clearance, and Goldson's clearance is pretty askew, and it's a momentary
Split
lapse from
second.
Golson, right? And Matt O'Reilly's got a split second to make a decision. The same split second that he made the decision when he sent that pass through to Jota. Defence splitter, and Jota did the dink. You've got split second to make up your mind what you're going to do here. That's what marks you out as a baller. Just somebody who's comfortable and knows what they're doing. And Brendan Rodgers talks about players that see the game in pictures. I've spoke about it myself. Snooker players in the park, I call them. They're 3 shots ahead. So if I do this, then that and that should follow. That kind of thing. And you cannot put a price on that. It's what happened yesterday with Celtic in terms of these guys stepping up to the plate and just seeing it in front of them and knowing what they wanted to do most of the time when the ball came to them, wanting the ball, being hungry, not scared, puffed out their chest, and said, I'm having a bit of this, let's go. Unlike their opponents who you were told had many wonderful footballers in their team. I can't comment on how wonderful or not wonderful they are, but in every time I've watched them play Celtic, apart from the dead rubber, when Celtic had won the league, Celtic have triumphed because their players have been better and have risen to the plate on each occasion. And and I'll say it again, that's because Celtic have a better squad of footballers. They also have a better manager in situ who knows how to utilise that better squad of footballers on occasions like that. And does it surprise you that Callum McGregor had his best game of the season? Does it surprise you that Matt
Team
O'Riley
always
had his
rises.
best game of the season? Does it surprise you that Kyogo does what he does best and was the difference between the sides? Did it surprise you that Maeda ran his socks off and blunted Tavernier? Did it surprise you that Joe Hart stood up to it? Nah, not really. Because it's what they do, isn't it? And
It's just what they do.
it's what they do. And it's what the manager sent them out to do. Because he's like, trust me, guys, this is how it plays out. And he said, if we do this, you've got a wonderful chance of winning this football match. And, so.
It's going to be a long week on Saturday, isn't it, for this game against Dundee to come along? But that's a very enticing game to come. Yeah, it's going to be, not this weekend, but the next weekend before Celtic play again against Dundee at home. That'll be a really exciting game, I think, because by then, Celtic's new signings will have acclimatised to their new surroundings. They'll be ready to challenge for a place in the first team. Plus, you'll have players like Rio Hatate coming back into the team. Now, yesterday happened, and Celtic didn't even have Rio Hatate on the pitch,
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think he's Celtic's best midfielder. When everybody's on form, when everybody's playing to their optimum level, I think that Rio Hatate has the high ceiling out of all the midfielders that Celtic possess. So to pull that result out of the bag without such a talent like Hatate on the pitch, it was really, really impressive to behold. That I was talking about it yesterday, and I was saying that it was good that Palma, Bernardo, Phillips, etc. It was good that they didn't need to get involved yesterday. I know two of them weren't quoted, in fact, Phillips and Bernardo, but Palma could just watch what was going on, take in what it's like and get that winning feeling almost instantly. There was a couple of times in the second half when maybe Maeda was a bit wasteful in possession, where you were calling on Palma to come on, make a big impact in your first game. Rodgers has decided to just let that be. He can make his debut at home against Dundee and set the hell alight straight from the off. I wouldn't be surprised in a week's time or a week or so's time if he starts the game next week, just as a showcase to come in and show exactly what he can do. But we talk about, I mean, we know we're talking about the Champions League draw on Thursday when it happened. With Kyogo starting the season well again, I feel like the only thing left for him to do to really insert himself as one of the great Celtic strikers is to do it at the highest level in the Champions League. Just looking at that group, looking at Feyenoord, Atletico and Lazio, I think there's going to be chances for Kyogo in the Champions League to break his duck, and I wouldn't put it against him to score quite a few, maybe 3 or 4 goals in the campaign. I think he'll be Celtic's main attacking force like he is domestically.
But
I back him.
But like Ibrox will deal with the Champions League games when they come around, and you'll trust whatever team the manager puts out you. I think in order to make a fist of the Champions League, you've got to be fiercely competitive at home, right? Like Martin O'Neill's first season when they won all 3 fixtures in the Champions League, 9 points, one of the few teams to exit a group on 9 points, and it shows you the importance of taking something on your travels, right? But as long as Celtic are fiercely competitive in the home games, then you take what you can get in away games, but they will roll around soon enough, and the manager, the picture might be a bit rosy and brighter, might have some players back, you'll have the new guys, kind of in the fold at that point, settled, and then I want Celtic to have a rip at this Champions League group stage. I really do. I want them to play like that. Play like they did at Ibrox, be comfortable and confident on the ball, and and go all out for the result. Yeah, the personnel will change. I want the quality to be a bit higher because you'll need more quality. But I certainly want them to adapt the same approach with the team spirit and a full of heart, and bottle, and just go and embrace that that great stage, the best club stage, in football, and they will roll around soon enough, and you will find out your answers. But yeah, I think if Kyogo can score on that stage, then he elevates himself again, doesn't he? Speculating on the number of goals you'll get, I'll leave that just now, but you can come back to me on that when the 6 group games have been played. But, there was lots to be optimistic about yesterday, but what they will need a step up and level again in terms of quality when the Champions League group stage come around, games come around. But fully aware of that, the manager's fully aware of that as well. Now we can start maybe projecting towards that and thinking about that, and how he's going to set up for that. And he has he'll have a plethora of options now. Because guys will come back, they'll be fit, and they've added new players, and they got over a big hurdle yesterday, a major hurdle so early in the season, and so now you can plan ahead, and I think the outlook's pretty positive, and it's quite you are optimistic, or you're certainly more optimistic than you were, and I think I can't wait for the Champions League games, Ryan. I really can't, because I'm going to trust the manager to work his magic again.
Absolutely. He's going to be coming up against 3 elite managers, I would say, in Arne Slot, Diego Simeone and Maurizio Sarri. 3 really good European managers. Arne Slot maybe not as big as the other 2, but he's definitely on his way. He get publicly courted by some big clubs in the summer, so he is definitely a manager on the up. But I think Celtic have a manager that can compete with those other managers. He did it every second week in the Premier League, coming up against managers like Klopp, Guardiola, Arteta, Mourinho, etc. You can name all these big names, Conte as well. So all of these managers Rodgers has faced, and a lot of the time he's got the better of them. Leicester, apart from their last season, they were a bit of a bogey team for some of the bigger teams in the league. They were a real nightmare to come up against. I remember particularly in, I think it was the 2019-2020 season. It was Brendan Rodgers' first season. There was a point where Leicester were second in the league. They were Liverpool's main challengers when Liverpool were running away with the league. I was just going back to the fact that Celtic are playing in the Champions League, the Tuesday, Wednesday. It's been well documented that Rangers are in the Europa League. Does that bring about its own sort of benefit as well, due to the fact that Celtic will still be playing the majority of their home games at the weekend on a Saturday, whereas Rangers will have to reschedule all their games to Sunday? Do you think that puts instant pressure on Rangers, or even more pressure on Rangers to get the results, when you're just assuming, I know, but Celtic will win the majority of the games that they play, especially if they play that way?
It's an added layer of pressure, isn't it? That that if Celtic win on the Saturday, you can't afford any more slip-ups because you're playing catch-up already. But it's just an added layer of pressure to everything, isn't it? That they know Celtic, in an ideal world, all being equal, Celtic for the foreseeable future will have the chance to go 7 points ahead of Rangers for every conceivable Saturday. So, and if they do, and you're saying that Celtic should and could and will win the majority of those games, so that's going to be the points differential every Sunday as Rangers head into whoever they're playing. And I think that eventually that can prey on your mind, and the very need to get those points can sometimes prevent you from it because you're trying too hard, or you feel that pressure. So it's probably something that Rangers wouldn't want, but it's a situation they find themselves in. And again, I'll go back to it, don't particularly care what Rangers do on the Sunday, as long as Celtic turn up on the Saturday and at every conceivable opportunity grasp that chance to turn the screw and force the ball back over the net to Rangers on the other side, and let them have to go and win with that hanging over them every time. Because these things are great in theory, aren't they? But it's in practice where you have to win your games. So conversely, you don't want to give them any kind of daylight, by dropping silly points like you did against St Johnstone, and they can reduce the gap, that kind of thing. You want to make sure that you hammer home that advantage of playing 24 hours earlier by winning as many games as possible and swinging that pendulum of pressure
It's a
straight back
champion's
at them.
advantage. It's a champion's
course it
advantage
is.
because you're in the
You know.
Champions League. There should be a benefit to that.
Yeah, and that's what you've worked hard for. To be in the Champions League automatically, or the group stage, and now you have that privilege because others have fallen by the wayside in their quest to join you. So now you have, as you say, that advantage. You have to use that advantage at every opportunity that you get. And I think most people are quite confident that Celtic will do that, won't they? Not overconfident, because the St Johnstone result tells you, Kilmarnock result tells you that it's not a given on any kind of day, but you're relatively confident that this group of players will now take that confidence that they got from the Ibrox result and go on a wee kind of run now. That's certainly the plan. It's certainly the hope. Wanted also to mention, Ryan, the referee's performance yesterday. I thought Don Robertson got every big call right, and you slaughter them or you have a pop at them whenever they make glaring errors, and a lot of the time they do. But I think that, and I've said this before, I think every Celtic supporter doesn't want favours, they just want fairness.
Preferential treatment, they just want balance.
And they got that yesterday, with the VAR decisions and the offside goals, which were spotted and called. And so you have to say to Don Robertson, well done. And for those that are, jumping up and down about the Lager-Bielka incident, Bobby Madden took to Instagram last night, and this is what he said. The defender is in control. The defender's action is to play the ball with his left foot. This is the important part. The attacker has not played the ball at this point and puts his foot in between the defender and the ball. It's a foul anywhere on the pitch, no matter what happens thereafter. Had the attacker played the ball before the contact's fine, but he was never in control or possession. Like most people watching, I would never think it was a foul. Naturally, you think he, as in Lager-Bielka, has pissed about and been caught on the ball. But when you have VAR and all the angles, you can't allow a goal like that when you have that evidence. There's
I think that's pretty clear.
Former Grade 1 official Bobby Madden explaining the rules.
And it's why VAR is so essential in the modern game. I think it's...
Because it called it right. So I think, you castigate officials quite a lot, and but I thought he refereed the game really well yesterday, Don Robertson. So I will big up to him for that and for getting the big calls. That's what all you want. You want the big calls to be called correctly, and you have VAR, so use it in order to do that, so that there's no grey areas and nobody's complaining. So yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning.
Yeah, it definitely was worth mentioning. I think it's quite good to leave the show on, because I don't think it'll get much higher than you praising referees, or I don't think it'll get any better than that. So yes, I think 58 minutes. We did 55, 56 minutes yesterday. So that's us been talking about the result for about 2 hours now. I know we could do another 2 hours, but we're better leaving some stuff until, because it's the international break at the end of the day. And,
a long week coming up.
It's going to be a long week, 2 weeks until Celtic are back in action against Dundee. But we'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to even more knowing that Celtic are 4 points clear at the top of the table. Or they're joint top with Motherwell. I need to keep on remembering that, but they're 4 points clear of Rangers. They will be 1 and 2 respectively at the end of the season. So right now it's 4 points ahead of their greatest rival. So cannot complain. Guys, just before we finish off, if I could just tell or ask everyone to please look at the ticker tape down below. If you visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, then you'll get the best Celtic journalistic content available at your fingertips. We also have an app on the App Store if you want to type in the Celtic Way in your phone's app store, then you'll be able to download the app, and it makes it even easier to read the stories. You just sign in using your regular subscription. And if anyone's interested, then please press the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We've had a really good growth over the past month or so with regard to new subscribers, so we want to keep that going. The more people that subscribe, the more people that will be in the comment section, and the more viewers, the more opinions, and the better it gets. So if you are interested, then please give us a subscribe. It really does help us continue to do these free videos daily, and the videos at the weekend also, with the pre-match, post-match, and the pre-recorded videos as well. Tony, thank you very much for joining me today. We've just went over an hour. I know we could go on for another hour, but we need to we need to stop it at some point. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, pleasure. Always is. It's always a happy Monday. Even happier Monday when Celtic beat Rangers. You know how it is.
Yeah. And thank you to the 750 people that have been watching today. We really, really do appreciate it. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow to discuss everything that's going on with Celtic. But until then, thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, enjoy.